I've just signed a contract. BBC are now expecting this.
Yeah.
You know what, let's run with it and let's just ask for forgiveness later. When you try and make a show and you dive into the diversity of the show and that becomes your messaging and that's why you made the show, you've lost the audience. You've lost the audience you've actually made it for. And we've got to treat underrepresented audiences, diverse audiences, whatever you want to call them, we've got to treat them with a lot more intelligence. They're not going to tune into a show because they see themselves on the show. That might be a bonus, it's a nice bolt-on, but they watch a show because they're engaged in the storyline. Listen, I'll tell you what, it's one of the few British comedies that have actually turned over a profit internationally.
Welcome to TellyCast, the podcast for everyone in the business of TV, content and social video. I'm Justin Crosby. This week, I'm joined by Dhanny Joshi, co-founder and managing director of BAFTA-winning Big Deal Films. From its roots as a startup with a mission to bring underrepresented stories to the screen, Big Deal has become one of the UK's most exciting indie production companies, creating hit shows across TV and digital platforms. We'll be talking about how Dhanny built the company, the challenges of making youth-focused and diverse content in today's market, what's changing in commissioning, and where he sees the biggest opportunities in the years ahead. It's all coming up on this week's TellyCast. Dhanny, welcome to TellyCast. How are you doing?
Nice one, Justin. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. Great to have you on the show, and congratulations on everything at Big Deal. And we're going to get into that in a minute. So for anyone who doesn't know Big Deal, I'm sure a lot of people in the UK do. Obviously, you've got a relatively high profile in the industry.
Yeah.
Tell us about Big Deal. Tell us about how you founded the company, what its origins are, and bring us up to date with what you're up to.
Sure. So I'm going to try and speed up the last few years in a quick anecdote. So yeah, look, thanks for having me. Firstly, I'm a big fan of the podcast, and it's a TV industry checklist tick thing to have been on it. So great stuff. Thanks for having me. So okay, so origins of Big Deal. So background, I was working in the music industry. I was working in PR, and I was at a PR company. I was new business manager. From there, I was winning contracts. On a day when I met an artist that I wanted to manage, I was like, listen, I'm going to manage you. I'll be your manager. You be the artist. And go back upstairs after my lunch break, where I negotiated this talent manager deal, go upstairs and go into work. And I was like, listen, I'm here, carrying on with my job. And they said, listen, we have to have a word. Tomorrow's going to be your last day because we're having a restructure. We're going to have to make you redundant. So I was like, damn, I just had my talent manager hat, music industry dream just set up there. I was thinking, I'm going to do that whilst I have this 9-to-5 job. And they've just made me redundant. And then the following day was my final day. They said, what are you going to do next? I said, well, whatever it is, it'll be a big deal. And then light bulb went off. I called my company Big Deal. I also had a misplaced ego. So I moved to London. I got a job in a PR company. I decided I never wanted to work for anyone ever again.
And you're originally from?
I'm from Kent.
Okay.
So when I was even doing the job, I was commuting every day from Kent. So I moved to West London and got a job in a call centre in Acton. And I started doing surveys for PwC, so PricewaterhouseCoopers. So my call centre name was Daniel Levy. I'm a Spurs fan, so right. I called myself that. I was talking when I knew if I was going to be talking to Jewish people, I'd call myself Daniel Levy. If I knew I was going to be talking to a Hindu, because you can kind of tell from the name, I'd call myself Rajesh. If I knew I was going to be talking to a Sikh, I'd call myself Harpal. If I knew I was talking to an English guy, I'd call myself Roger.
I like it. Yeah.
So that would pick up the steam. That allowed me to then set up my talent management business, which was managing musicians. So on the side, so I was building up my roster. Then I got introduced to an actor called Adam Deacon, who was a musician and he was also an actor. 1 year into managing him, we got nominated for the BAFTA Rising Star Award. So in our category was Tom Hiddleston, Eddie Redmayne, Chris O'Dowd, Chris Hemsworth. At a time when Avengers was out, Marouk with Marilyn, all the big Hollywood films. And the media were giving them all the attention when it came to the shortlist being announced, but not Adam. And when I asked CNN, I was like, why aren't you interviewing Adam? They said, he's not right for our audience. And then that triggered a thought process in my head with what the TV industry might be like or what the entertainment business is like. So from my call center job, I reached out to all my friends in the music industry who were rappers and said, look, you need to vote for Adam for the BAFTA, right? And I'm going to send you this tweet, just copy and paste the tweet. Let's get behind Adam, #Hackney versus Hollywood, and text his number. So all the rappers started putting out. Now, I should caveat by saying the BAFTA Rising Star Award is the only BAFTA that's voted for by the British public. Yeah. So even if the media is showing the other guys all the attention, this is the only one that's judged by the public vote. So our mission was, we're not going to get the media on side. We have to get the public vote. We have to go out to audiences. This is 2012, so it gives you a snapshot as to the time of what that time was, and social media, and how in its infant stages it actually was. Got all the rappers to get behind it, and then I started reaching out to the pops, the pop managers, so One Direction's management, Jay Sean's management, Leona Lewis's, and I said, look, I know your clients love Adam. Here's the tweet, just copy and paste it. One Direction put the tweet out. It went absolutely crazy. Then I reached out. Then I got more brave. I started reaching out to Simon Cowell and James Corden and Rio Ferdinand and Wade Rooney, and all their teams said, yep, fine, we'll back Adam. And what we did is we created a Hackney versus Hollywood angle, which is we're the underdogs, they're the establishment, the media don't respect us, but because I came from black music, from an industry standpoint, black music's always been the underdog, but it has popular culture in its hands. So anyways, we ended up winning the BAFTA. Won the BAFTA.
Well, you won the BAFTA in many ways, right?
I did the campaign. I was doing that campaign for my call center job. So I'd hit my strike rate for the day. I said to my supervisor, Chibs, I'll get the strike rate for the day. I'll get it within the first hour. Then you have to just let me get on with it in the corner, because I didn't have phone minutes. So I had to use the official phone to do it.
Awesome.
So anyways, did that. Then I started managing Hamza Arshad, who was the UK's first big YouTuber with Diary of a Bad Man. What I realized is I had a BAFTA winner. I had a YouTuber that had cities all around the UK on lock, engaged with his YouTube. He would do a video, he would get 5 million views within a few days. And I remember going into the BBC, this is in 2013, and I reached out and I said, listen, look, this is what Hamza's doing, this is what Adam's doing. And they said, you have more views on your YouTube channel, Hamza, than we have on our linear channel. Go work with a production company and come back to us. And I'd reached out to production companies, and they didn't understand the cultural code, and they didn't understand online audiences. And there was an ignorance to YouTube success. They thought...
not much has changed, really, actually.
No,
but anyway,
so imagine at that time, it's 2013. Yeah. I'm still working in a call center. I've got a roster that has credibility, has audiences, has the youth, but the industry was turning their back. They didn't engage with us. So my friend at the time, and friend now, Thomas, who was actually the rapper that I first started managing, right? He was working in development at the time, and he shared the same frustrations I did. He was pitching talent, he was pitching ideas, and they weren't getting the pickup within the company nor the channels. So we thought to ourselves, there's so much talent out there that is underserved, that should be on screen, that has young audiences, has engaged audiences that are just not being serviced. There's an audience there that are just not being served, right? I can see that because I see the analytics on YouTube. And if the on-screen diversity is as bad as it is, it's going to be catastrophic off-screen. The talent that should be working off-screen isn't going to be there. So we figured if we can service culture, if we can service audience, if we can service talent, we've got a company here. And so we were absolutely mission-led with making a change, but we also saw there was a huge opportunity to set up a company that services this, and we had faith that we could make a go of this. So that's what set up Big Deal.
That's a brilliant story. And it's interesting because you can tell your PR background has really come in handy, right? And I'm sure that's something that still comes in handy now. And certainly in the TV industry, you need to have a sort of a handle on how to communicate, not only when it comes to selling your shows, but building connections and building relationships, and in this case, certainly in the world of social media, that communication is absolutely crucial. So when you set up this business, you do scripted and unscripted, right? So tell us about the content that you produce at Big Deal then.
Talent has been at the key of everything that we do. So London Live was setting up. That was set up by the guy that set up Evening Standard. And Darren Lawford, do you know Darren? Yes. Darren Lawford from Dare Pictures, brilliant guy. He reached out and he said, I want to have Hamza on the channel. And he said, okay, well, I said, okay, that's fine. We can sort that out, but we have to produce it. He said, who's we? I was like, Big Deal Films, right? We weren't even set up then.
Yeah.
Right. And he said, okay, then come to my office. Mate, 2 days later, Thomas and I, we turned up in suits, right? Turned up in suits. We took time off our call center jobs and we turned up to Derry House in High Street, Ken, with a deck. We said, look, this is who we're going to work with, because he knew that we didn't have any experience. So we're going to work with this director, this AP, this cameraman. We gave him a deck and he said, fine, you got the commission. He gave us a 1 hour commission, 10,000 budget. Tom and I thought we were going to leave our jobs, right? We're like, oh, we're quids in 10 grand for 1 hour. What? Now, 10 grand for 1 hour, Jesus Christ. But anyways, at the time, so we delivered though. That was a key thing. We delivered this documentary and it gave us a confidence to start doing more. So we focused on unscripted first, doing documentaries. That was a lower hanging fruit. We then became the suppliers for the VTs for the One Show.
Yeah.
And in real time, we were sitting there and we had a conversation with them and they were talking amongst themselves that, oh, we don't have any BAME suppliers. And BAME was the term at the time. You wouldn't use it now, but we don't have any BAME suppliers or diverse suppliers. So we then cornered ourselves into doing their diverse themed stories. So in the space of a couple of years, 2-3 years, we delivered about 80 short VTs for them, 4.5 minutes long. But how do you tell a story in that short amount of time? And we delivered, and we were winning them awards, right? So we did that. Then with going into unscripted, it's a funny story, and I think we're past the statute of limitations now, so I can't be sued.
Okay.
But
good. Go on.
So
spill the beans.
So Hamza, BBC Three wanted Hamza on their channel, and they said, look. So we did a short VT. We did a short for them. It was 5 minutes long. It's called Taking the Hamza, where Hamza plays a gentrified Pakistani comedian who's trying to be accepted in the UK and overtly plays his card of trying to be British when he's actually a Pakistani from Pakistan. Anyways, delivered it, and it was pre-Brexit, and it landed really well. It got them a lot of views, and they said, oh, you know what, go do another 10 of these. But it was Hamza playing like a fictionalized Pakistani going out in the public, slightly Borat-ish. We got the commission, we signed the contract, and then BBC were like, here's 10 episodes, 6 minutes long, go deliver it. Sign the contract. Hamza then says, I don't want to do this kind of show. And I was like, what do you mean? He trained as an actor, so he always wanted to do acting. He didn't want to do a Borat-style show where he's playing a character, but he's going out in the real world. So I was like, well, what do you want to do? He said, well, why don't we turn this into a sitcom? Now, as his manager, I'm like, that's a great idea. I can break you as an actor that way. He was trained by Tom Hardy. He had a huge audience. I was like, this is genius. The producer in me, right, I've just signed a contract, and BBC are now expecting this. Yeah. So I thought, you know what, let's run with it and let's just ask for forgiveness later. Right, so we did it. We've got 10 scripts written. I had a very, very bizarre process of selecting the talent, which was gut instinct actually, which was met a bunch of writers, and the agent sent whoever across, and I went with a guy that had Air Force Ones on but had a really good instinct. He just knew the world, right? And same thing with directors. The big agents sent all their esteemed experienced directors, but the guy we went with was a Lebanese guy who hadn't had a big series but had good instincts. And I said, I think you're the guy. And he said, I've had my 3rd rejection this week. Don't do this to me. Right, just, you can be polite and just say, look, it's not happening. I was like, no, I think you're the guy. And that was our team. We made the series. It was a crash course in learning how to make a scripted show. I'd never made one before. We had a 60K budget to deliver the unscripted commission. We ended up making 10 scripted episodes on the same budget. I almost went out of business. My director was like, I need a 3rd AD. And I was like, you got a 1st AD, you got a 2nd AD. Why do you need a 3rd AD for? Right? I had no idea, but we learned. We made the show. It got number 6 on iPlayer, and it established us as a scripted.
So just take it one step back. So you delivered something completely different to what you'd been commissioned then. I mean, and how did that go down? What was that experience like? It's
a valid question. So I actually reached out to Damien Kavanagh, and I asked him, and I said to him, actually, before that, I reached out to Babita Bahal, who's now at Fremantle, and I said, listen, look, we've got these 10 scripts. I think it's really good. We're going to need a little bit more money because it's really expensive, and we're just trying to hire a couple of more positions. And she went to Damien and said, Damien, look, this is what they're doing. What do you think? Damien Kavanagh called me at 10 o'clock at night and said, Babita's told me that you've made this a scripted show. Pause. I was like, oh, God. Then he said, I've read the scripts. They're really fucking funny. Can I swear? Sorry, I shouldn't swear. They're very funny. And I'm going to give you some extra money. Go make this a show that we can be proud of. BBC supported us. They backed it. I mean, it helps that we had scripts that were funny.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that would have been a problem, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
But they liked the scripts. And without even realizing, I'd taken money, what was supposed to be for one pot, took it out of another pot, didn't even understand the politics around entertainment pot, which is where this commission was originally from, and going it to being scripted. But we took the chance, and we made a funny show. It was called Coconut.
Right, okay. Yeah. And you got to, what, you say
got
number
to number 6 on the iPlayer. Got
yeah.
to number 6 on the iPlayer charts. And when there was a court case recently, and Suella Braverman got called Coconut, and they imprisoned the person that had a sign saying Suella Braverman's a coconut. And in court, the lawyer said coconut is a known term amongst ethnic minorities, and then they played an episode of Coconut in court, and the person got not guilty.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway,
used as evidence.
Yeah. There you go.
So, so this is a pretty unconventional move into TV, which is brilliant, and I love stories like this. So when did you move from, I suppose, taking these chances and going against the grain and perhaps delivering things that broadcasters weren't originally signing up for? When did you get to the point of Big Deal becoming, really seen and respected in the UK production industry as a player?
Our position was we were known from very early that we were championing voices and talent from underrepresented backgrounds, and I'm trying not to constantly use the word diverse. Underrepresented backgrounds, right? And we were one of the first to champion on screen Mo Gilligan, London Hughes, Hamza Arshad, Monroe Bergdorf, and the agencies started to recognize that Big Deal is a safe place for our talent. So agents would sign up their talent that may be from an underrepresented background, and they would probably know 80% of the production companies may not give them the time of day. Not just talent from underrepresented backgrounds, but emerging talent that are on the way up, who they recognize have something special about them, but haven't quite done enough to get the attention and the time of a larger production company. So we started noticing that agents were recognizing us. And then after a number of our one-show films, and they were coming out, they were winning awards, the channels started recognizing that we were a place that talent could go to, and they were coming to us and saying, we like this talent, would you work with them? And the reputation started carving itself out where the inquiries were incoming. And so that's when I started recognizing that we're known and respected by the channels. We would always deliver. No matter how unconventional our route to market was, we always delivered. Thomas, my business partner, is so meticulous with the creative and the delivery that we never took shortcuts, and so that helped.
I guess one of the key questions is balancing that authentic representation with commercial success when it comes to broadcasters. I mean, that's probably easy to deliver against now than perhaps it was in the development of Big Deal. I mean, do you agree with that? Is that an accurate statement? Do you think now you've built your brand up and your reputation up in the industry enough that there is that trust aspect there? And also, are broadcasters looking for more? You didn't like to use the word.
Yeah, no, but let's call it for
contest,
it. Yeah. So we've had some shows that have worked. We've had some shows that haven't, right? And one thing that is paramount throughout is that the importance of story and the importance of the format. And you've got to be led by those two things first. I think when you try and make a show and you dive into the diversity of the show and that becomes your messaging and that's why you made the show, you've lost the audience. You've lost the audience you've actually made it for. I think we've got to treat audiences as, and underrepresented audiences, diverse audiences, whatever you want to call them, we've got to treat them with a lot more intelligence, right? Which is, they're not going to tune into a show because they see themselves on the show. That might be a bonus, it's a nice bolt-on, but they watch a show because they're engaged in the storyline, they're engaged in the format, it moves them. That's what's important. When we make our content, we want to know, is it funny? Is it relatable? Is it warm? Does it feel familiar? Those are the things that we think the audiences want to get into. If they relate to the story, or if they know someone that's gone through something, they'll probably watch it. And I think that's been key here. With Dreaming Whilst Black, it had relatable themes. It had a bad workplace. It had love. It had trying to be enough for your girlfriend and constantly doubting yourself. And people related to the themes. Was it a diverse show? Yeah. Unknown cast, relatively speaking, made by a small production company like Big Deal Films. But the audience related to the show. And that's why it traveled. I mean, it was the most sold show of 2023 globally, right? So I think, has it got easier? No, I think audiences still want a good story. And if they're engaged with the story, if they're engaged with the format, you'll get your show. And I think also with that, we also have to recognize that everyday Joe Blogs who might be in Scunthorpe will also watch a show that may have a diverse cast in it because they engage with the storyline. I think if you focus on that, you can't fail.
So we've talked mainly about traditional TV, if you like, traditional TV commissions, but you also, at the beginning, you talked about YouTube and success of YouTube and working with creators. How do you work with DigitalFirst projects right now? Are you working on any? Do you run any channels? How are you engaging with the new production landscape?
It's a good question. So we haven't set up our own YouTube channels yet, but we are going into a digital first strategy. We started off as a digital supplier. So we would do, a lot of our early commissions were sitting on YouTube. Disabled Fight Club for Channel 4 was a YouTube first show. We recently did one for Channel 4 4.0 called Goated, which was YouTube first. So we are familiar with creating shows that sit on YouTube first and then branch out. We're embracing it. Our whole strategy, I guess, is you're creating a show and you'll have your add-ons with it as well. You'll have your clips for YouTube. You'll have your clips for social media. I think we found with Hamza and Diary of a Badman, he had his character, Diary of a Badman. It was a very popular YouTube web series. Maybe did about 115, 20 million views. We had that. We then built it into a kids book series. From that, we're now building into an animation series. So for us, it's about how you build that world and build from there. I think
it's IP at the center.
And it's IP at the center of it. Yeah. IP is obviously king. And so I think what we've lived over the last 10 years is we've seen the shift from YouTube. So before, YouTube just was a platform where creators would try something to see if it will work. And then hopefully they'll get the attention of a commissioner. They then get the commission. And we've discovered this painfully ourselves. They'll then get the commission, and often the concept is softened, it's neutralized, the edges come off a bit, and then it doesn't land. The commissioner then loses faith in YouTubers. The YouTubers and the creators have lost faith in the system because they're like, we tried and it didn't work. Now, before, YouTube was a place where you would go because you just needed to try something. Now it's a place creators go because they're their own boss. They have editorial control. They're not bogged down by compliance and all of the above. And so they no longer have to wait for validation. They validate themselves. And so for our strategy, going back to talent, we're focusing more now on working with talent who want to do more digital, who want to have complete creative control. And that's where our strategy is now. YouTube, audio, visual, all of the above. And just content can live on multiple platforms, and that's where we're putting more time into now and stuff. And it can have the same IP, but the audiences want different things.
By specialising in content for underrepresented audiences, are you seeing the same pressures when it comes to commissioning? Because there are quotas, a number of different broadcasters have got quotas for underrepresented groups. Do you think that's is that comforting for you? Does that sort of save, does that keep you less exposed to the general market at the moment?
There's been times when we've pitched and you're just competing with everyone else. And sometimes you want that diverse quota there because it holds the channels accountable and it brings some equality to the playing field. Because if you're in a commissioning team or say you're pitching to a team of commissioners and there's no one in that commissioning team that looks like you, and this is an experience that we've had, they're not going to understand the cultural nuance. They're not going to understand why it's important. Now, the idea obviously has to be great and it has to stand on its own 2 feet. But if there's less of a cultural understanding, you're just not going to, it's going to be harder for you to break through and to be considered. And then you've got your idea will be in that commissioner room with everyone. And if no one understands it, or no one understands the why, or no one understands the talent, or no one understands the audience, it's very difficult, right? A big thing for us actually was when we were initially pitching, we couldn't get meetings with any of the channels. Then at the start of a year, BBC employed 6 assistant commissioners, commissioners from underrepresented backgrounds in each of the genres. The moment that happened, within 3 months, we got 6 commissions.
Wow.
Because these commissioners knew what we were talking about. They understood the cultural code. And so that's been really important. Now, sure, it's important. Those quotas are helpful, but I don't think they exist anymore. Diversity, we've seen, it's sort of forgotten about in TV at the moment. I was on a panel last year at the Edinburgh TV Festival, and it was, is this the beginning of the end of DE&I?
Right.
That's what it was. You had 4 heads of diversity on the same panel as me, basically almost lobbying to keep their jobs.
Yeah.
I'm using extreme language, but it's what it was. So right now, I mean, we're seeing it in Hollywood. The heads of these departments are going. Channel 4's head of diversity has just left. I'm going to ask you, what diversity quota? Now it's just a case of the money talks, the slots are less. So you've got to make the idea work 10 times harder. You've got to be in everyone's faces. You've got to hold the commissioners to account.
So how are you seeing it then, the general landscape, TV commissioning landscape at the moment? I mean, for the past year, have you found it's tougher?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we can sugarcoat how difficult the last year and a half has been. I don't want to hear another slogan. Was it stay alive till 25?
Yeah, survive till 25 and
stay in the mix till 26. I am not staying in the mix till 26. but no, it's been really hard market conditions. I think a number of companies, peers, friends, even ourselves, we've all had to make very difficult decisions.
Yeah.
You've had to streamline your slate. It's been hard. I think where we're at now, I think the market has somewhat corrected itself. And I do see more activity in the marketplace. I see that we're busier as well. So I don't want to be glass half empty. I think things are picking up.
Is this both on the scripted and unscripted sides?
Yeah. So we've got a number of funded developments happening at the moment. We're in production on an unscripted 4-part series. Dreaming Whilst Black is, we're in the edit on season 2 at the moment. So there is activity happening. And I think there was a course of market correction taking place. I think everything was so inflated over the last few years. The streamers had come in, blown up all the budgets. Inflation was what it was. The industry can't sustain that. There's no magic pot where everything's just going to come in. Sometimes it's a perfect storm. So you do have to ride the wave with it. And, we did. But I think we're just seeing a lot of consolidation and we're just seeing a lot of streamlining.
Do you... So with the commissioning system now, generally the commissioning system hasn't really changed in this industry for decades. What do you find is the biggest blocker, really? What's the most frustrating thing as a producer producing the sort of content that you do?
Sure, I think there's a lack of bravery and trust at times, and I think risk aversion is often disguised as process.
Yeah.
I spoke to a commissioner recently, and they loved an idea that we presented, and it couldn't move forward. And their point was, they said, Dhanny, look, right now we're in the commissioning room, we have the money there, but we'd rather to retain our audience, we need to recommission a season 3 or a season 4 of something that might deliver an audience on the third or fourth series, but that's more guaranteed than taking a punt on a new show or with a new talent. That's very frustrating for talent because, how are you going to break through if you don't get a chance? But that just tells you the thought process within these commissioning rooms at the moment. I can't say that speaks for every channel, but I imagine the last 2 years have been very similar to that, where the money's there. I don't believe the money's no longer there. I think the money is there.
Yeah.
But the appetite for what they perceive as risk is not. What they perceive as risky and, that's taking too much of a chance. I don't think there's that bravery inside the room at the moment, or the appetite to be brave.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's impacting decisions at the moment.
Yeah. And that, I suppose that is the last thing you want in a healthy TV ecosystem, isn't it? I mean, the number of brave decisions over the last 20, 30 years that have been made for shows that have become breakout international successes. Mm-hmm. A lot of those decisions have been brave decisions and have a massive cultural impact, not only in the UK, but internationally as well. You can't see a lot of that happening at the moment. It's just about, Tidal formats being rebooted and as you say, recommissions of shows that are not necessarily doing brilliantly, but they're easier to recommission than make a risky commission, right?
Yeah, here's the thing. I don't think it's easy for commissioners at all right now. I think it's really hard. They're fighting for their jobs. You go on LinkedIn, you see another commissioner leaving to set up a new venture, and it's difficult. They back something. If it doesn't work out, you lose your job. It's just the very nature. We're dealing with people's lives here.
Yep.
That's what it is. So yeah. I certainly have a level of I have a lot of empathy for them because some of these people are friends, but that's just the nature of the business we're in right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, if it was up to me, if I had to do a commissioning overhaul, I would just give more runway to early stage ideas. I would just think, you know what? There's been some amazing, incredible crossover hits that have come off the back of a hunch. So let's back those hunches. Not everything needs to be a fleshed out deck. Not everything needs to be, an Excel sheet presentation. And just come in early and just back instincts. It's instincts that have made this industry, the UK industry, so rich. We need to go back to that.
Yeah.
But
less commissioning by data and AI, and maybe a bit more about cultural and risk taking.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, there were so many places that turned down Dreaming Whilst Black. Didn't see the potential, didn't see the growth, thought the world was going to be too small. We heard it all.
Yeah.
We had to back the initial development ourselves as well, alongside the BBC, who were brilliant. And Sarah Asantni was our commissioner, and she backed it on a hunch. It wasn't like it had 1 million views on YouTube. It had about 15, 20,000. And I'm not downplaying that at all.
Yeah.
15, 20,000 people in a concert is a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
So let's not downplay that in any kind of way. But by the normal metrics of what we hear now, something having millions of views or it's gone viral, you think that's a go-getter. It's not always going to be guaranteed that that's going to land and resonate.
Yeah.
So she backed it. She went with her hunch. And listen, I'll tell you what, it's one of the few British comedies that have actually turned over a profit internationally.
Right. Yeah.
There's some market intel for you. There's an Excel stat for you, but yeah. So, the most sold British show of 2023. If you think about that, you've got some of the biggest distributors, some of the biggest production companies making some incredible stuff. We're this little company called Big Deal Films, and we're not little now, but,
How many are you at the business now then?
Actually, no. So to be fair, there's about 6 of us. It's not,
okay.
It's not the biggest team, and we partner up where need be. We bring in expertise where need be as well.
Yeah.
We've just had an announcement go out in the trades today that we've appointed Bal Samra as our exec chair.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So what's the thinking behind that? There's a really seasoned BBC executive.
Yeah.
I think he was on BAFTA as well. Was a BAFTA committee member, and is very experienced exec. Tell us about what they're thinking behind that is.
So it starts off with relationships. So Bal was a mentor to us when he didn't need to be. So he would take time out of his day to talk to us about the business, just guide us, make sure we weren't making the wrong decisions. And that relationship just grew organically. I'd be calling him at 8 a.m. in the morning saying, listen, had this come up, how do you manage it? How do you negotiate it? You know, I didn't come from a TV background per se, and Thomas came from a development background. We're both learning on the job, and he gave us the right advice. And he was like, okay, cool. You know, you really believe in what we're trying to do. You know, this is a guy that helped launch the iPlayer, helped launch BritBox, launched Radio 5 Live, one of the architect teams. He's done some big stuff, did the big co-production deals with Netflix and Discovery. So he's done some big stuff. He knows a thing or two, right? And as we were talking about our plans and our international footprint, starting with Dreaming Whilst Black and building upon that, our plans with working with digital talent, what we've always done, us doing more sound, us doing more audio, us doing more audio visual, it's like we're aligned with where our direction is, what your experiences is, and just that operational rigor that he has. If you've ran the BBC operations and $500 million a year budget, I think you'll be just fine helping us run Big Deal Films. But more importantly, he believes in the vision, he believes in the voices. Bao, he's a working class guy. He didn't come from, he didn't have that posh background, or I say posh, he didn't come from a traditional TV background, put it that way.
Yeah.
And he's at BBC, he was always backing talent. He was always backing the off-screen talent, creating initiatives that actually made a difference. And I just looked at a lot of the work he was doing for charities and the philanthropic work, and I thought, okay, you know what, you mean well, and you're holding people to account. This is the kind of thing that we need to make Big Deal bigger. Yeah. So let's go on the journey.
Fantastic. Well, he's now on board, and so what's next then? What does the next year look like for Big Deal Films?
Big Deal Films. So very exciting. Firstly, look, we want to be the studio that everyone comes to when they want to feel something emotionally, commercially, culturally. We want to be the studio. So that's where we're at. And we're trying to double down on that with our output. So, of course, we've got Dreaming Whilst Black coming out second season. We've got, we're doubling down on our premium unscripted content. So we've just closed the rights on the Harry Dunn story, and with the family there, which is really exciting. So Harry Dunn was the boy that had been hit by Anna Sakulas. Do you know the story?
No, I don't.
Yeah,
no.
He was a boy that got hit by a US diplomat's wife, and she done it.
Oh, that was the car accident outside the army base, wasn't it? Yes.
And she did a runner. She went back to the US. She escaped prosecution. It became a big worldwide story, and so we've just going to be working on that.
Wow.
That's exciting. We're working with more on-screen talent. We're working with the likes of Jay Sean. We're working more projects with Hamza Arshad. We're working on an animation series at the moment as well. So, and what's really exciting is just expanding further into the audio-visual space. You know, it's not a play. It's a case of we just see where there's audience, and we see the talent that we're working with have footholds in those markets, and so we want to build upon that now. So, yeah, it's just head down and do the work.
And this is, and you're talking about diversifying revenue streams, aren't you? There, were you talking about? Obviously, you're talking about different genres of content, but you mentioned earlier on, I think you mentioned books and different product. I mean, you're going to moving into live and all of these sort of revenue streams as well.
Yeah. So when we started, everyone said to us, just focus on one genre. And coming from a talent management background, and my business partner Thomas enjoying everything, we were like, we can see there's opportunities in multiple genres. Our thing is, let's stay true to our brand and what the story is and venture out. We were told that's a ridiculous idea. Now we're BAFTA nominated in the unscripted side. We're BAFTA winning on the scripted side. We're going into animation now. We're going into audio visual, and it just felt like a natural progression. And I think in the very uncertain times that the industry has had over the last 2 years, that strategy has certainly helped us stay afloat during these very difficult times. I think that there's no need to limit our output or box ourselves into just staying to one genre. And actually, you can get multiple revenue streams from doing that. And how we're raising revenue is, of course, focusing on these genres, we're also just building efficiencies within our processes. I think that's really key. I think that's what the last 2 years have taught us. Mind you, we've always been efficient with how we've run our productions. Every beat, every location, everything is scrutinized, and it has to really earn its place in those budgets and stuff. And the reality is, when we were starting out, we didn't get those big budgets that our peers had got. We had to work with very little, and then you try and make it work for that. And I think that discipline and that training has helped us now in this thing. So whereas another production company might be like, look, there's no way I can do this show for X amount, there's a chance we may be able to.
You may be able to do it, but also there may be other opportunities you see that from a business perspective.
That's the thing as well. Can it be franchisable? Can it be relicensed?
Yeah.
Can we repurpose it on other platforms? How can we market it? You know, I think the 360 model is really exciting now, which is when you're coming into a show now and you're making it, you're in the edit, have the marketing team from the outset involved. In fact, have the marketing team there when you're filming the show, right? And start thinking about how you can purpose that content outside of it. Number one, it's going to be your marketing and it's going to raise awareness for the show. What we found with Dreaming Whilst Black is when we were getting ready to do the marketing rollout, we didn't have a crazy budget. We had our clips ready and we knew that someone needs to see something 4 or 5 times, 6 times before they even engage with the show. Yeah. We had our memes ready. We had our reels ready. We had you name it, the marketing play, the talent rollout. We had it all. So when you finally see the show, you're already familiar with the character. You're familiar with the nuance in the voice, all of the above. So I think all of those things you have to really factor in now.
Yeah. And last question, before we come on to your story of the week then. For a new producer or a new business coming into this market, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
I'd say stay curious, and I'd stay collaborative. You've got to back the talent. So be talent focused and backing them. Be collaborative with people that complement your weaknesses. So if you're just really the business guy, work with the creative and just see how you can merge and how you can make that work there. One thing we learned early on is we didn't collaborate enough when we started. And I think we could have got further along in the early days had we collaborated with another studio. Now that might not be popular to say now because you'll be like, oh, they're going to come and scoop your IP. Have a very good lawyer, but collaborate and go I think you can go further along the chain with collaboration. I think that's something that I learned very quickly.
Get there faster with a
get there faster. You learn a lot as well. Yeah. I think I get it. It's not the most popular thing to say, and but you're chasing learning curves, and it can also be very lonely. Doing everything yourself. We've been there, and I think that collaboration can take you very far. And we're collaborating even now. We're collaborating with studios internationally. We're collaborating with financiers. We're collaborating with other production companies that have creative value or have a value add to the mix. So,
all right, good advice. Thanks, Dhanny. Well, now it's time for Story of the Week, where my guests get to highlight the industry news story that's caught their eye in the past 7 days. Dhanny, what's your Story of the Week?
Story of the week that's caught my eye is Stephen Colbert's show being cancelled.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of nuance here. Is it political? Is it economics? Is it audience dwindling? And the truth is, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I can see that all 3 elements are being discussed.
Yeah.
And the other thing is...
It could be any of those 3, but probably a combination of all 3, right?
Yeah, probably a combination of all 3. And then at the same time, do you ignore the fact that podcasting is just going through the roof and that format is very popular? And is there a world where he comes back and does a YouTube channel and launches there? And could that be just as big? I'm being glass half full. I think that he can come back and I think he can go there and
100%.
He'll go there.
I mean, Piers Morgan, right? I mean, that's the model, isn't it?
Yeah. And so, but I think I'm waiting to see what the reason why all this is, why it's been cancelled, what's gone on over there, how much is politics impacting editorial decisions now. is that a sign of
merger decisions?
merger
how
decisions?
politics is,
Okay, at a very, very high level, yeah.
Yeah.
So how that's being influenced, is that something we should ever consider in the UK? Is that something we should be wary of, what could happen in the UK? So I'm just fascinated. I know it's only just, the news only just come out, so
Yeah.
I want to know how it pans out.
Yeah, well, perhaps we are slightly protected with the public service broadcaster remit there a little bit, but we've seen lots of political pressure put on broadcasters as well over the last few years. I'm sure that's still going to continue. But okay, so Stephen Colbert, story of the week. Who's your hero of the week, Dhanny?
Hero of the week, I'll have to say Warp Films.
Okay.
I say Warp Films. What they did with adolescents was brilliant, and the impact they've had socially. Now you're probably thinking, why am I mentioning that now when it came out 2-3 months ago? They've scooped so many Emmy nominations. It's such a proud moment as a Brit, putting the best of British content on the map. Content that has, I don't want to say entertained, because I didn't find the show entertaining. I found it engaging. It made me think, and I think it's such a great call card for globally for what British content really is about, and the best of British. Yeah. And I think the cast, Ashley Walters is a friend of ours at Big Deal. I'm very happy for him. He's put 25 years into the business. So to me, he's a hero for what he represents to a lot of creatives. And Warp Films as well, we're working with them on a project, and they're just great people. And it's nice to see the good guys not finish last. The
good guys win at last.
Yeah. And they're winners anyway for the impact they've made within government, within society, the conversations they've had. They've probably saved some kids in the process. So they're my heroes.
Okay, yeah, impactful show. And then finally, Dhanny, what are you telling to get in the bin?
Sky cutting their children's commissioning.
Right.
I don't like that news.
No.
I don't like that news.
Have they pulled out completely? I didn't see that story.
Certainly the commissioning team has been relieved.
Right.
And they've said they're not commissioning new TV shows. And I think that's a shame. I don't put that on the head commissioner. I think maybe there's an economic decision there. I don't know. But the loser in that will be kids and the variety of content that they'll see. I think that's a shame. I think at the moment, CBBC are they're the leading kids broadcaster over here, and they're doing a fantastic job. But I think that you need that variety, and I think children's programming is getting less and less commissioned, and I worry.
Okay, so less kids commissioning can go in the bin.
Yeah.
All right. Dhanny, thank you so much for coming on TellyCast. It's been brilliant chatting with you, and all the best with Big Deal. I'm sure you don't need much luck. You've got an amazing team there. You've had amazing success so far, so long may that continue.
Thank you for having me. Cheers, it's been a pleasure.
Well, that's about it for this week's show, and indeed for this season of TellyCast. We're taking August off to prepare for a very big last quarter of the year with lots of exciting developments coming up for TellyCast in the DigitalFirst space, including the launch of our new Digital Bootcamp training course. You'll hear more about that and all our other developments here and on The Drop at dropmedia.co.uk. Make sure you subscribe to the Drop newsletter too. We'll be back in September with a new season of TellyCast. Until then, have a great summer and stay safe.